Center, Indian Health Service since 2012. Over the course of his year, he has held multiple leadership roles of increasing responsibility, including Chief of Pharmacy Services, Ancillary Services Director, Administrative Officer, and since 2018, Chief Executive Officer. As CEO, Captain Bryant provides executive oversight for clinical and administrative operations, workforce management, quality improvement, and strategic planning to advance the delivery of comprehensive health care services to American Indian communities. His leadership has focused on strengthening operational performance, improving access to care, and fostering a culture of accountability and service excellence. In recognition of his exemplary leadership and commitment to the IHS mission, Captain Bryant was named the 2022 recipient of the IHS Luana Reyes Leadership Award, one of the agency's highest honors recognizing outstanding leadership and dedication to American Indian and Alaska Native health. Captain Bryant is a licensed pharmacist and a citizen of the Cherokee Nation and holds a professional degree in pharmacy. Now, one of the things that I will share with you that I witnessed personally, we had a health board meeting over at Clinton, and there were a couple of tribal members that had concern. What I witnessed this young man do is tell them, I will talk to you after the meeting. I will talk to you after the meeting. And guess what? He actually talked to them after the meeting. It was not one of the deals, oh yeah, well, here's a number to call. No. I purposely stayed there, witnessed him. It was like 40 minutes worth past the meeting. And he also made the announcement that if anybody has difficulty with customer service at the IHS, to let him know. That touched my heart. Because what I was used to was, if I went to Clinton IHS, even if I had a broken arm, all I got was cough syrup and aspirin. But that has changed. So here you go, sir.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I did have a slide deck, but I don't know that we'll be able to put it up there. But thank you all for the tribal leaders that are here, the tribal health board leaders that are here, Dr. Henrietta Mann. It was very refreshing to hear your storytelling. So thank you very much for your time, man. I'm a graduate of Southwestern. There is a dorm that's in her honor. It's actually the dorm that I stayed in when I was in pharmacy school. So, so very special place, near and dear to my heart. But more importantly, I think it's what I want to relay to you guys is that I didn't pay Albert to say that about me. So, but that is the heart, and that is the mission, and that is what my goal within the Indian Health Service is to bring about. I can remember the days of growing up, and as a child, my mom and dad would take me to the Eufaula Indian Health Clinic. You got there first thing in the morning, you didn't leave till 5 o'clock. And I remember those stories. I remember those days of those patients being required to stay there all day, wait. Your story of patience resonates because you did have to have patience. And not that we don't want to see our patients there for the entire, but we want to be respectful. We want to be respectful of their time. And so our goal within the Indian Health Service, and I say this from a national leadership, but also from an area leadership. I've had the ability to work underneath Admiral Travis Watts who is the Oklahoma City Area IHS Director. One that embodies the empathy, one that embodies the gratitude, but also the humility that Dr. Mann talked about. And that's what we want to bring to our staff. I know today I'm going to talk a little bit about historical trauma, generational trauma, and the impact. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the actions that we are undergoing within the service unit. But most importantly, what I want you to know from the bottom of my heart is to understand, for you to also understand that from my Cherokee heritage, obviously we have the Trail of Tears that was somewhat of our journey. But one of the things that we do when we bring on a new employee is I actually do sit down with them and give them the story as far as the history of the Cheyenne, the history of the Arapaho, to understand the reasons behind some of the issues, some of the concerns, and some of the lack of faith within the federal government. I'll be the first to tell you, the federal government, they were good at doing treaties, but they were not good at upholding them. But my goal is, and my responsibility is to make sure that we uphold those trust treaties, that we uphold the value, and most importantly, the trust that you have within the health system that you have to provide the health care that we can. And so, perfect timing. Perfect, I can do that. But when you look at the IHS mission, to raise the physical, mental, social, and spiritual health of the American Indians and Alaska Natives to the highest level, that's all encompassing. It's one of the very first things I talk with all of our new employees is understanding this is not just about medicine. This is about taking care of the patient holistically, and an understanding that every patient is important to us and the organization and to you as the tribe of people. You can see there within the IHS vision to embrace the traditional knowledge, hearing the things and hearing from Dr. Mann really truly embraces that spirit where I teach them the story of as far as the migrations to the Great Plains, the migration to the Colorado, eventually to present day Indian Territory. To understand that these are the patients that you serve. You may or may not be Cheyenne or Arapaho, but you need to understand these are the people and these are the history, this is the stories that they have. Ultimately, our vision for the service unit talks about quality healthcare, but really three main pillars: prevention, restoration, and collaboration. Preventing, that is certainly something that we want. Obviously, within our patient population, we have a high prevalence of diabetes and heart disease, but we're working on getting access to medications and other aspects and to get our patients into a healthier state. Restoration, all of this is going to lead into, and I know Dr. Shields tomorrow, you'll get a chance to he'll speak with you, our psychologist, where he speaks about some of the actions that we're doing within our behavioral health delivery team. But collaboration, and there's nothing that's been very good that's been as it's related to COVID. But I will say one of the strongest things it did is it brought Indian Health Service and it brought the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes together, stronger and in partnership together. Because I feel like if we're all partnering together and we are able to be on one team, we're stronger and we can do more together. So that is our vision statement, to ultimately exceed the needs of our patients. And so within that concept, I tell our staff that when you have that interaction with either your colleague, your staff member, the patient, the vendor, or whoever it may be, it's not about meeting the needs of the patient. Meeting it is not, that's just getting the bar. That's just hitting the bar. We want to exceed it. We want to be able to show that our patients truly have that trust and engagement with us to make sure that that they truly trust the care that's going to be provided for them. We do that through a couple different things, and I'm not going to necessarily go into all the details. But we do that through a patient experience survey so that we know that we can actually benchmark ourselves against some of the highest level organizations as far as customer service and so forth. So that's a little bit about that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because I think I would be rehashing, and I think hearing it directly from Dr. Mann, I think is the best here. But understanding we have to understand the past so that we don't repeat the past and to support the future in that healing state. So obviously looking at the historical trauma rooted in displacement, cultural suppression, inequities, and those things all continue to influence our health and behavior in our overall wellness in what we see today. We have to understand the past so that we can understand how can we take care of the future. If we don't, we'll repeat history. But also recognizing that healing, resilience, and cultural responsive care, that is the IH's mission. That is the holistic mission within the Healing Health Service. The historical trauma, as I stated here, I think enough has been said earlier this afternoon to speak on this, but I think this is at the core when we start talking about the generational trauma, the historical trauma, understanding these are the sources, but we've also got to make sure that we're providing a source of healing with that. So some of the effects that we see with this is we see grief. We see depression, we see anxiety, and then trauma responses, which is typically that fight or flight mentality that you would see. As Dr. Mann was mentioning, as far as alcohol was not prevalent, substance abuse wasn't prevalent, but now what we see is substance use used as that coping mechanism, not as tradition, but as a coping mechanism for the individual. Unfortunately, we talk about suicide, and I think it's one of the things that we have to talk about because every life is important. They are created for a purpose, and we've got to talk through that, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the actions that we're taking, not only on the service unit, but also on the national level to make this, to discuss this. And then also understanding that the family and community relation stressors, understanding the historical past, but also understanding the assimilation that has occurred. But understanding everyone's experience is different, but that resilience is still critical, vital to our response. So with this, one of the actions within the Indian Health Service is to make sure that our staff on a national level, but also most importantly at our service unit, has an understanding of what trauma-informed care means. Meaning that they have an understanding of the history, meaning that they have an understanding of the historical context in which the patients that you're serving. And it is a distinct honor to be able to serve our American Indian Alaska Native families. But to be able to provide that culturally responsive care so that we have an understanding of what that looks like, of how we can use prevention and early risk detection. I will say from the tribal health programs, you certainly see a lot of the work in prevention and restoration within the tribal programs. I know you'll hear more about that, but I do truly think that with all the programs that you as the tribe have engaged in as far as looking at early prevention, truly is remarkable and is a best case scenario for our patients. But integrating cultural strengths into care planning, aligning suicidal prevention, and whole person wellness Because at the end of the day, we might be able to, if we're not treating the patient holistically as that one complete person, then we've lost. If we're not treating that patient in that complete manner. So one of the thing that I want you to know is that as we talk about trauma-informed care and we talk about some of the actions that are related to that, I stand here and to make sure that you have an understanding of the reason why maybe we ask some of the questions that we do when we do screenings. And that is to make sure that we are looking at the patient holistically, understanding the patient's background, but also to identify. There is, from an IHS-wide standpoint, we have a zero suicide initiative. Obviously, zero is a number that we want to prevent suicides within our organization, within our population. That's difficult, but at the core of that is really the commitment to make sure that we are screening and identifying and providing the care that's available, that can be available for our patients. I know tomorrow, like I said, you'll hear more from Dr. Shields, but we've really worked within our behavioral health department to make sure that we have the licensed clinical staff to be able to provide that health care for you. That may be counseling, that may be medications if needed, not always, but being able to provide that care to the patient, but also connecting them with community resources so that they have the needs of the patients, be able to connect with someone local if need be, and so forth. But within the Zero Suicide Initiative, really there's 7 main concepts, and I'm not going to read up every slide to you. I know I've only got just a few minutes. But it does take leadership. It does take the leadership to make sure that the care that we're providing is safety warranted, and that we're committed to making sure that we address the issues that are occurring. Training, making sure that our staff have to go through trauma-informed care training on an annual basis, and then they also have to go through zero suicide training on an annual basis to make sure that they have an understanding and it is continued to be built upon the importance of being able to identify the wellness of the patient, but also so that we can detect anything that might be of concern. Within this concept, if you come to any one of our facilities, the likelihood, and it will occur, is that you will be asked, how are you doing? You'll be asked some of the critical questions of, have you thought about committing suicide? Have you thought about some of those actions that might actually harm yourself? Because there have been times that we've actually identified someone that has a concern. They didn't come in to see us. They came in to see us for dental. But that patient actually, when we asked the questions, and that patient was actually truthful with themselves, not truthful with us. It's about being truthful to yourself. We identified that there was an active, actual plan to commit suicide. So within that, we're going to ask those tough questions. It's not to try to identify. It's really just to make sure that we are taking care of you holistically, but also making sure that we can care for you and so forth. So we do train our staff to identify those key critical questions to make sure that we're taking care of you and that you receive the highest care possible. If we do have a patient that actually does test does test positive on that, it's immediate response from our behavioral health team. It's not one of those that says, "Oh, here's a referral. We'll call you in a week." It's immediate, and we develop a plan of action for that patient so that we can take care of the patient.
On your previous slide, can you go back to that previous slide?
Sure.
The very first one, the create a leadership driven. Are you talking specifically to IHS, or are you talking about your relationship with the tribe? When you say leadership, who are you talking about?
It's more on the IHS level as far as engagement and making sure that this is a critical element that we are engaging in from the leadership standpoint, from a national level, but also within the service unit level to make it a major priority within the service. Thank you. And then the last four: engage, treat, transition, improve. So I'm not going to get into each one of those in great detail, but truly engaging that patient to identify what some of their concerns are, making sure that we treat the patient from a holistic element, understanding they may have traditional beliefs and wanting to embrace that. I would say this is one of the things I would like to see us do over the next, in the coming years, is really integrating more of the traditional medicine in with our behavioral health team to make sure that we take care of the patient in that way. And then be able to improve, to make sure that we are, if there is someone that does screen positive, that we are taking care of the patient and that we know that we are truly ensuring that their care is cared for. So the last thing, because I think that is the last slide, the last thing that I want to say is I really am appreciative of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes and your willingness to, I feel like that you have truly embraced me, because I'm not Cheyenne, I'm not Arapaho, but you as your tribal leaders have truly embraced me and your willingness to take me in. There's several of you that come to Health Board. It's almost like a second father to me, so I want to say thank you for that, because that truly means that you're willing to engage and have respect for me, but also that we can truly be partners in taking care of our patients and our family members. So with that, happy to answer any questions. I'll be here for most of the afternoon. I apologize, I cannot be here for the dinner. My daughters have another engagement. So, but I will be here the rest of the afternoon. So happy to have any discussions with you and discuss how we can move forward. So thank you for your time. Hopefully I didn't go over too. Am I good?
Just a little reminder, we'll be having a drawing. What time? Now? We're doing a drawing now. Don't forget to buy your chances to win a, what is it, $25 pre-play and $25 meal allowance. 5 of them. You can draw all today on them, or just one right now, and another one at 5. Lay down for draw. Yeah. I've been there too many times. Get your tickets. Your tickets you bought out of here. The winning number is 374580. 374580. What we got? Got a winner? All right. Thank you. Don't forget, you're still selling the tickets out here. Another one at 5. So $1 a chance. Our next speaker. All right. Mental health clinic. It's a great need for our people. And we have a petition up here, to sign. You want to sign it? Come on up and put your John Henry on here, and we try to get the mental health clinic for the tribe here. So we have it up here. You want to sign it? Come on up. Help our people out that way. A good way. It's like it was talked about this past speaker. wants to help all our people that way. I know that he mentioned, we have spiritual, we have our own ways of taking care of ourselves, our people like that. And some of us do use that, our traditional ways, we use that to help our people that way, to help feel better, help get them better. Larry's gonna pass that petition around, if you wanna put your name on there. Our next speaker is Jennifer Hill, the acting superintendent, BIA, of the Concho Agency. She's an enrolled member of the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma and a descendant of Kiowa and Cattle. She is formally provided an overview of the professional background of her deep-rooted connections to Oklahoma. Her career with the Bureau of Indian Affairs has spanned over 23 years with specialized experience in realty, informational technology. Her academic background includes a bachelor's degree in biology, natural science, and soil conservation. Her personal ties to the region are significant. She's originally from the Hawk Creek community. Yeah. We all know where that's at. Located on the allotment of her great-grandfather, Guy Ware. She currently resides near Washita on the allotment of her husband's great-grandfather, White Buffalo. Jennifer Hill.
Thank you all for inviting me to come and speak at this very special meeting. And one of the things that I see, and I love, is just seeing that banner across the screen say, generational trauma, don't carry it with you. Don't carry it with you. Because, one of the things I like to always say is that, you know what? Even though they tried to get rid of us, remove us, guess what? We're still here. And when he said that, I just gone to the state of Oklahoma. I live in Oklahoma. I grew up south of here, Cattle County, at 4.5 miles from Canada. So that's where my stomping ground is. One of the things that I do know is that, I don't have to go over the history. And you said, thank you for the history of the tribe. And now all of us have been through the same situations, even though we may not be the same tribe. But Medicine Lodge Treaty, we are the same in the sense that the Kiowas were part of the Medicine Lodge Treaty. And they moved us south to the Anadarko. Actually, Holbert, all the way on Highway 9, all the way back to Anadarko, Kiowa country. So, one of the things that I'd like to say is that I'm just like you. I grew up with an outhouse. I don't think our home, we didn't have plumbing until, I would say the 70s when I was in the first grade. But it didn't matter to me. I was happy. I'm still proud. Proud to be who I am. Because guess what? All of our experiences that we have in our life make us who we are. Because guess what? We're still here. I do know that my first traumatic incident happened when I went to first grade. And we had to do a Mother's Day thing or grandmother's thing, big thing. And so I had to list, your parents, your grandparents. And I listed all my grandmothers because that's how I was brought up. My grandmother had 6 sisters. And so I listed all of them because they are my grandmothers, right? But my first grade teacher told me that that's impossible. And I told her, I said, no, it's not. And as a little girl, I stood my ground. And I didn't care if I got bad marks for putting down all my grandmas, because to me, that's who I am. So that was my first, and that was when I realized that, hey, my ways are different. I don't speak fluent Kiowa, I wish I did. I do understand a little bit. My grandmother spoke fluent Kiowa, my mom spoke some, and of course, you can see today what assimilation has done to us. It's trying to get rid of our language, but thankfully we have language programs in our schools and in our communities to teach our youngsters. My grandparents went through the boarding school era. My grandmother, she went to the St. Patrick's Mission there in Anadarko. She finished 8th grade. My mother went to St. Patrick's and then later transferred over to Riverside Indian School. Actually, she graduated from Colony, Oklahoma. But she went to boarding school out of Riverside. In the Catholic mission is where she was disciplined for speaking her language. So that was just a generation before me, not too long ago. My grandparents, they came out of, my grandparents came out of the boarding school area as well as St. Patrick's. So my history is much like the same as yours. So I felt like that I wanted you all to get a glimpse of who is managing the property, the trust land. And so you know that it is personal to me. Being a landowner myself, I did inherit my part of my grandparents' great-grandfather's estate. Godware or Ogdaw is how it's pronounced, his island name. And I'm very thankful to say that today. And I encourage you landowners to learn about, come to see us at the agency, because that agency is yours. It doesn't belong to me at all. That agency belongs to you all, because it's here in Cheyenne River Country. If you want to know anything about your property, the history, we have it. I remember when I first started out in acquisition disposal as a conveyances and realty at Anadarko agency. The first place they put me was in the vault, where all our history is located. I mean, it's like, you could lock me in there, because I would have stayed there all day looking at the history of the allottees, original allottees. In fact, in the documents, there's still pristine signatures of the presidents who signed off on those original allotment deeds. So if you all want to know about your history, please come and see us. Now, I want to say that Bureau of Indian Affairs, I grew up hearing the bad stuff about the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I don't know if any of you remember Ragsdale. You remember the name Ragsdale? I believe he was the Assistant Secretary of Bureau of Indian Affairs at the time, and he may have been a different title at the time, but I remember hearing him out, Bureau of Indian Affairs. And one of the things I like to say is that in the past, people thought of the Bureau of Indian Affairs as the boss Indians around. Well, I'm here to tell you that this generation is not here to boss Indians around. And what we want to do is we want to build and strengthen our partnerships amongst our communities. And that's what we've begun to do with your leadership. We were able to come in and work together. Right now, we have a probate backed up. That's not entirely BIS, and I'm not going to go into that. But right now, we're working with your enrollment department. They are partnering with, I'm sure you've heard of Miss Marla Longbranch. She's our probate specialist at the agency. But they're working directly with her to help us to get our probates moving along. And so we reached out and partnered with them, because that's the only way we can do it. With the 30% loss in our employment, BIA, they still want us to do the same and produce the same amount of work. Give us the stone and chisel. That's how I see it. That's okay. So, the other thing we're partnering, trying to strengthen and build partnerships is with the fire department, the fire programs for the tribes. And I've been working directly with the leadership in the fire. I think it's a wildland fire management program, and hopefully we'll be able to provide some services to go out and do some control burns on individual allotments. So hopefully we'll get to see that this summer. That's in the making. I also want to state that my relationship with the Shine Arapaho tribe began with Cynthia Upshago. I don't know if y'all know Miss Cynthia Upshago. I tell you what, nobody works as hard as this lady. She's a gem. She works really hard for her tribe, and she works really hard for her landowners. So anyway, her and I had our relationship because we were both doing Deed of Trust. And we like to say in our group that we're bringing back our land one grain of sand at a time. So Deed of Trust is what Cynthia works on predominantly, aside from the A&D conveyances. But we're working to bring in, I think, 5 tracts is what we have this year so far. That's the A-Cross Ranch, and we're working on trying to bring that back into trust right now. And hopefully we'll get that done by the end of the year. Cross your fingers. With all the other work that's falling on us, it's kind of hard to see above water at times. So what I'd like to do is to say that we want to be the best Indians around. BIA is the best Indians around. And that can only be achieved with our partnerships with our landowners and our tribes and helping to manage your property. I will say that we are going to be, we started this in the communities, and we want to continue to come out and do symposiums in the different communities around El Reno and bring out what we do in realty, what resources are available to you as a landowner. I want to strongly stress estate planning. Come see us because we want to work with you while you're still here and not after you're gone, because it's very hard to do when we're working on a probate, trying to determine who is going to inherit what, with our undivided interest on tracts. Hopefully by offering and saying, come and see us for estate planning, we will be able to pass on that undivided interest and maybe consolidate some in some areas. We also have a means for housing. We have the HIT program. We also have trust mortgages. We want to come in and discuss trust mortgages. We are trying to work. I heard earlier that some of our folks are coming back. They're coming back here to live. And wouldn't it be nice if a landowner that lives out in North Dakota comes here, is able to make use of their property for a home site? Wouldn't that be nice? Because I hear a lot of people say, I own land, but I can't do anything with it. Well, come see us. Come see us. We will sit down with you and we will go over all your assets with you. And we'll show you some of the things that we can do. Now, I want to know in this room, how many of you are landowners? Okay. Now, I want to know how many of you know where your property is located? How many of you have been on your property? I say, come and see us. What we will do is we will make an arrangement to go with you out to your property. If you have 5 tracts, we'll go out, with you. And we'll have our soil conservationists come out and go out there to look at our property. So come see us. Okay. So lastly, I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be here. It's an honor to be able to be the person to manage your property. I'm the one who signs off on your deeds. I'm the one who signs off on your oil and gas leases. If you have questions about any of that, come see us, because people have the answers. I know a lot of things are passed on from one generation by word of mouth. But come on, come and see us, and let's make sure that those match up with that history. Because you may find a lot of surprises. So anyway, do you all have any questions for me? Okay, and I'm going to say I want to recognize Mr. Romanos. No. Well, I met Mr. Romanos, he came to see me.
Bureau, USDA, break a lease.
The only way a lease can be broken is that if all the entities that are involved agree, or if that lessee is in violation of his lease, we still have to give him due process. But if he doesn't cure that error, then yes, we can break a lease.
One of the things that I have wondered about is, especially after you ask the question, how many have been on your land? How many of the people that lease the land hunt that property and sell hunting rights to that property?
That's not supposed to be happening. Now, the only way that BIA would be able to step in and do something and advocate for a landowner is if you bring it to me, the acting superintendent, in writing. And you have evidence to support it. We will address it.
Here's my thought. My daughter just became a drone pilot. I have an interest in doing that. To go above, trust land, and take pictures and see if I can locate hunting blinds.
Okay. Right here. Right. Yeah, come see him. But you know, I know
And I did come up with that thought sitting at a bar at midnight.
Well, one of the things that, just like I said, we're trying to build strong partnership with our tribe. And I'm hoping to see, here's my dream. My dream is to have more American Indian surveyors. My dream is to have more American Indian appraisers to appraise our properties. More American Indian farmers and ranchers. Why aren't we farming our own properties? If we can partner with the tribe and we help to provide some programs to do these types of trainings and we get it out there to you, I think we'll see a big positive change in that percentage of people, of American Indians who are in those professions.
What is your allotment of landmark?
Come see us. And I say this because this is what we're talking about. When I first came to the agency as acting superintendent back in the summer. And one of the things that we did ask our soil conservationists to provide us with a listing of all of those landlocked properties. Now, that happened prior to me, but we're not going to have that happen anymore as on my watch. Because before any land goes out of trust, we want to make sure that the adjacent landowners, trust land, has access to the property. And I don't think that that was happening in the past, and why, I don't know. But come and see us and we'll look at it.
Can you assist with who to contact after you file for the Cobell settlement?
You want to contact for
The
where
Cobell
to file for
settlement.
the Cobell?
I already did the paperwork and everything, but I'm having a hard time contacting someone on where they're at with this.
Okay. BIA did not handle the Cobell settlement, but that doesn't mean we can't, you can come over and see us, that we can't find you a contact. Okay?
Do you offer assistance in your particular area or all tribes?
That's a good question. And here's why I say that. Because in addition to being the acting superintendent for Concho Agency, my main role is the deputy regional realty officer for Southern Plains. And so I oversee the trust mortgages right now for something like that. And it depends on where your property's located. If you own the property, we'd have to go over and look at all of these, like a check sheet, to see if you qualify. So I really can't say it's entirely for the Cheyenne-Arapaho tribe, even though being here, the agency, it is for the Cheyenne-Arapaho tribe. But me being also from the regional office, it would be for tribal members within our jurisdictional area.
Are all the leases that you advertise for, has that closed already?
Are you talking about the oil and gas or the farming and grazing? Farming and grazing, that has closed. What we do is we go and run a report for those leases that are expiring this year, at the end of this year. And that's how they're put on the advertisements. Okay. And I would like to also invite any one of you here who are here to our farming and grazing lease sale, which is tomorrow, and we're holding it over at the, where's it gonna be? At the Respect Gym tomorrow. It starts at 10 o'clock if you all want to come and see what we do with our farming, how we run our farming and grazing lease sales.
Which Respect Gym, here in Watonga?
Pardon?
Which gym, here in Watonga, or which?
Oh, no, not here in Rotonda, at Concho. I'm sorry, I'm thinking, yeah, at Concho. Sorry. Okay,
I got a question.
okay.
We were your thoughts or opinion on the acquisition of Fort Leo land.
Fort Reno lands? I hope it happens. So we're not giving up. We have a solicitor that has been fighting for that for several years now. And so it's at the point where somebody is gonna have to make a decision. And so we're pushing to make a decision in our favor.
So who makes it?
Well, we have senators and congressmen that are standing in the way right now. They're on board. Okay. And we have advocates for us, and believe, one of the things that I do know, and I was very impressed with this, I went to a meeting where we had the solicitors there, and they were, I tell you what, we have some solicitors up in DC that are fighting for us. They really are. And it made me feel all fuzzy inside, because I'm like, yeah, we do have advocates there. So I'm not gonna, I still have hope.
One last thing about using the drone to detect hunting lines. If that is proven to be a fact with proof, would that make that lease null and void?
That's a good question. If they're selling, definitely.
Because my thought is, do that, make the lease null and void, they have to pay in full because they messed up. Then you can release it.
That, I will have to look at the regulations on that. Hey, if it could be done, definitely, but I have, we have our CFR regulations that are our boundaries that we have to abide by. So, yeah. Also, being from science background, I did ask about drones at one time. I said that would be so much easier to go out there and do site inspections. And right now, as government goes slow in acting, hopefully we'll get to that point. But it's not gonna happen today with the drones. But you can,
Do you offer physical survey?
for surveying, okay. No, not at this time. I don't know when that happened. We did have a surveyor, I'd say maybe 15 years. He was the last one in Southern Plains, and when he retired, they didn't backfill that position. Now, if we get enough of them, this is something that I'm advocating for. If we get enough people who need surveyors, and we come in and put a listing down, then I can request from the regional office to see if maybe we can get a contract, to contract those out, those requests that I can see. But I haven't got to that point yet.
We got a small, watering farm. What do we got there? We're running water, farm, and water.
Good question, and I'm gonna say, come see me. We can sit down and discuss this, we can look at the track, and if we can even go out there and see for ourselves, okay?
Across the lane. We inherited, 1,400 acres, let us go. 30% in that pathway, we went out and got title and,
Okay, what we can do, even though that is outside of our jurisdictional area, that doesn't prevent us from looking into your inquiry, okay? So if come and schedule a time to come and see us, and we will go over your property, we'll even look at that property that's in the other state, and then we will get in contact with that regional office and the agency that provides the services. Then we'll find out, okay?
how much does renter or county pay per acre per cow?
That varies according to the property. We do get appraisals of the properties, and so that is going to vary. We also compare that with county records. Let's see, county records, soil conservation records. I forgot what they call it, what the state calls them. What was that? Aggregate. So we combine all of that to come up with the numbers, but we also have to have an appraisal on the property. So our appraisers are the ones who provide us with the values. Those values aren't shared, but only with the landowners, by the way. We don't share that with anybody else but our landowners. No comments. Not that I know of. I do know that according to our appraisals, our values, you may get more for pasture land or less for pasture land than you would for crop land. Because we have both crop and pasture lands. But we have those values. You can even look at that too.
I got a question.
Okay?
The oil fields, they go across your land, pipeline, and it's the money.
goes and it crosses your land, well, first of all, they will have to come in and they would have to request a contract for a right of way on that pipe that's going across your land. And then I think they pay, I'm not really sure, but they measure in rods, not in acres. So we'd have to look at their property and look at if there's a lease on that property, if there's an existing rights of way on the property. Those are the things that I would look at if you come in and want you to look and see if anything's going across your property and what's happening with it.
I was told this, that the person leasing, the farmer leasing that land, they
Here's where we have a dilemma. We have a dilemma in that a lot of the times with oil and gas, our landowners have sold the top, the surface, but they retain the minerals. So without knowing exactly what you or the landowner's benefiting from, that is something that I can't answer without actually looking at it. Surface and minerals.
I've worked in oil for many years, I've seen it go across. They know that it was the person leasing.
The person leasing the land shouldn't get it. Because it's not their land, they're just the lessee. So, but yeah, I'll look into that.
I got one more question.
Okay.
Does the county tribe have a water complex ordinance?
The water compacts, we don't. I imagine that would be the tribe. Same to the
It is, you guys.
It's a good question. And once again, without actually seeing it in front of me or actually going out there and seeing it, I'm not saying that I don't believe you. But in order for us to be able to do anything about it, we have to have the paperwork in hand, and then we can go and investigate. Now remember, we only have how many soil cons? Right now we only have 2. But 3. We have 3 soil conservationists that manage all the property. And how many counties, Cincy? In 7 counties, you know. So that's a lot of land. And, you know, we appreciate if you have any complaints, we appreciate it when you bring them to us, because then we can do something about it. Because, you know, our soil concepts see everything here, and we're in the office. We're trying to change that by getting out, going out, and doing our own site inspections, and going out and seeing for ourselves. If we have a complaint before us, then we're definitely going to go out there and look at the property, just like what you're telling. And we'll go out there. All right, I think the last thing I have to say is that here in the state of Oklahoma, the Native American people, the tribes, we own almost 2/3 of the state of Oklahoma. I encourage every one of you to get out and vote. Have a true American Indian as a government. That's not sorry. Okay. Sorry. All right. Thank you all. Thank you.
Workload, and then they sell the ability factor.
Thank you very much. Been very informative. Round of applause for her. It's Jennifer Hill, all the way from Hall Creek. Man, woke up there a few times. I'm not gonna give you the details. Yeah, it was at the church.
There you go.
Trust me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is Roberta Hamilton. Roberta Bobby White Thunder Hamilton grew up in Watonga. Her White Thunder family comes from the Fonda area where her great-grandfather, White Thunder, was given an allotment. White Thunder farmed the land on the allotment. The White Thunder family moved to Watonga, where there were family allotments. She is a descendant of the Sand Creek Massacre. Bobby attended schools in Watonga, Gary, and San Francisco, California. She graduated from Watonga High School in 1977. Man. Bobby's family raised her with Cheyenne traditions and Arapaho traditions. Her parents are Robert and Ida Blackman White Thunder. Her paternal grandfather, Edward White Thunder, was a Cheyenne chief, and her maternal grandfather, John Blackman, was an Arapaho chief. Her grandparents, Edward and Rosie Touching Ground White Thunder, Jane Bigfoot, and Gregory Blackburn, and John Blackman raised her according to traditions and cultural values. They also encouraged her to do well in school and go far with her education. Bobby and her husband, Dale Hamilton, have 11 children and 10 plus grandchildren and 1 great-granddaughter. Bobby received her associate nursing degree from Presentation College in Eagle Butte, South Dakota, and her bachelor's nursing degree from Salish Kootenai College in Pablo, Montana, working for more than 25 years with the IHS and the Veterans Administration in South Dakota, Arizona, Montana, and Oklahoma. She retired from federal service in 2016. Since then, Bobby returned to work with the Cheyenne Arapaho Tribes Department of Social Services and the Department of Health, where she currently serves as the CHR Director. And so with that, I will bring the microphone over to you, young lady, even though you graduated from Watonga.
Oh. I just want to thank everybody for being here today. I feel that this is an important subject to many of us, to all our tribal members, really. So I'm glad that this came about. I want to thank the organizers for this and bringing us together for these next today and tomorrow. And so I just wanted to start off. I do have a PowerPoint here, which I will follow, but I may deviate from that, from this. So our subject today is generational trauma. And many of us have already kind of talked about this and highlighted some of the important issues. So what is generational trauma? Generational trauma, according to a lot of the resources that I looked up, is negative psychological and emotional impact of experienced trauma, which is passed from generation to generation. And I think our previous speakers have kind of highlighted that as well. Okay, when does generational trauma occur? And this has also been touched on, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about our past. So our past includes a lot of what my big sister Henrietta talked about and all throughout history. I started at Little Bighorn. I know a lot of us in our history books, there is not much mentioned about what our ancestors have gone through. Little Bighorn, you know, we had our Cheyenne, Arapaho allies, our Lakota allies fought in this battle, and this history shows this is where General Custer was killed, and this is where I was told for the Cheyenne women after he died, put awls inside his ears so that in his next life he would be able to listen. The next one is Sand Creek Massacre. As many of us know, we are ancestors have survived Sand Creek Massacre. That's why we are still here today. On my grandmother's side, I have a lot of relatives in Northern Cheyenne. And one of my aunts from Northern Cheyenne told me a story. One year we went to the Sand Creek Run, and she told me that we had a relative, red dress woman, who was at Sand Creek. She, as a child, lost her family in Sand Creek. And in the midst of the massacre of it going on, her mother ran with her and put her, there were in the riverbanks, the sides, there was overgrowth on the sides. And her mother put her inside the riverbank and hid her in the overgrowth. And her mother told her, as they heard all the gunshots and the screaming and the yelling, her mother told her to stay inside there. Don't come out, no matter what you hear, no matter what you see, you stay there. So Red Dress Woman stayed inside the riverbanks there. And as things quieted down, she fell asleep. And then she woke up and she heard men calling, come out, come out. And she was scared to come out, but she did. And so there were the men that, some of the people that survived there were gathering the survivors there. And she was able to come out, and she survived this massacre. And so that is kind of where our family come from Sand Creek. And that is the story that was told to me as part of our family history there. From there, the force moved to Oklahoma. From the cavalry forced us to move on. And I always wonder, you know, how did they get here? Did they walk? Did they ride horses? Did they ride buggies? How did they arrive in Oklahoma? So that is another generational trauma question. As we get here to Oklahoma, we have another Washita massacre that occurred. And this is where Black Kettle, I believe, was also killed, along with many others. We have the Indian Relocation Act, 1953, I believe. And this is where a lot of our families, even here in Watonga, was affected by that. My dad went on the Indian Relocation Act to San Francisco, California. And I remember being in our old car, traveling down Old 66, bumpy, all the way to California. I think it took us like 3 days and 2 nights to travel there with my dad, my mom, my uncle Melvin Blackman, and my sister. But we drove to California. We were put in an apartment building. I believe it was maybe 4 or 5 stories high. And this is where all the Indians from the relocation, they were put there. That's where we lived. And it was on a hill like this. I started school, I had to walk up the hill, across the road, and that's where I started first grade. And I believe there were many other family members or families there from the Cheyenne tribes. So that's my experience with the Indian Relocation Act. I believe we lived 2-3 years maybe, got homesick, and then came back home. And again, back home, bumpy 66 on our old car, our stuff coming back home. While we were in San Francisco, my mother had a son. I had a little brother, John White Thunder. He passed away there. He's buried there in San Francisco. So talk about generational trauma. This is part of that. Indian termination policy. The federal government wanted to terminate treaty rights for a lot of our Native Americans. So that is another trauma that we faced. The boarding schools, we hear stories about the Indian boarding schools. You know, Dale tells me about his trip to his attended school in Chilocco Indian School, and he said that they starved him there. You know, if you didn't get up to eat breakfast, that was it. You were done until supper time. So a lot of our students there suffered. And as it was mentioned before, Carlisle, we brought some of our ancestors home recently back to Concho. And one of them was my relative, and Dale had a relative there. So we were able to bring them home and bury them. Boarding schools, when I was growing up, like I said, you know, I went to school here in Watonga, and I ran track, I played basketball here, and my senior year, I wanted to go to Riverside Indian School to play basketball. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, can I go to Riverside? And he said, no. And when my dad said something, you didn't ask again. You knew that's the way it was going to be. He just told me no. And I tried to ask, why, Dad? You know, he didn't want me to go to boarding school. Now I know why. Assimilation, we're here today. We're here with assimilation today. Throughout history, this day and age, assimilation. Our language, we have programs trying to teach our children the language. And as I began my presentation, my intent was to introduce myself. Nahachive Edzemhen. Nahachive Edzemhen. What I said was, in Cheyenne, my name is Edzemhen. I am named after my aunt, Lillian White Thunder, who passed away many years ago. I carry that name from the way it was explained to me. You carry your father's sister's names, my aunts. My sister, Frances Fern White Thunder, she is named after my aunt, Frances Beard. She carries that name, Me'io. So that's what we pass on in our culture, in our traditions. These photos that I used for this PowerPoint, this is my grandpa, Ed White Thunder, as a child. That is his dad, White Thunder, and that is his mother, Yellow Crow Woman. So these pictures, I was fortunate enough to come across them when my aunt Frances Beard passed away. We have a lot of old pictures. I made copies for our family so they would have them. And so unresolved trauma experienced by grandparents is transmitted to their children and upcoming generations. The lasting pain is transferred from one generation to the next. All these events cause mental and physical stress. The emotional and psychological burdens influence behaviors, coping mechanisms, and cultural views over time. Trauma isn't fully resolved. This is from some of the research I did on generational trauma. This picture is of my aunt Frances Beard when she was young, at one of the camps, mini camps that they had growing up. Healing from generation trauma. To heal is to become sound or to become healthy. And I believe that is the goal of healing from the generational trauma. And how we get there is up to one person on how they heal. One of the ways they can heal is to reach out for therapy, to learn and recognize triggers, guided meditation, practice self-care, and empowerment for oneself, and to know that you don't have to do this alone. And these are just some suggestions for healing from the generational trauma. This picture is of my grandmother, Jane Blackburn, and my grandmother, Sarah Beard, as young women. With the Cheyenne Arapaho Tribes Department of Health, we offer many services for healing from generational trauma. The Department of Health has adopted the holistic approach of healing, where we address the mental health, the physical health, the emotional health, and the spiritual health of our tribal members. Our staff are going to pass out something that the Department of Health has come up with. It's a mental health journal. Mental health, a person has trauma, and in their mind, they process what that trauma means to them. And this journal is to help a person get through their mental health journey, from being unhealthy, hopefully, to make them get to the point of getting healthy. So this is what this journal is. We also have a staff member on board with the Department of Health, Christina Sharp. She has a master's degree, and she is very instrumental in the 988 program. She is also the director for the health education for the Department of Health. And there are other resources available for our tribal members. We have the 988 program. And I guess I kind of jumped ahead. It's like, where do we go from here? So we talk about the mental health. We have resources on your phone. Everybody has their phones. You can dial 988, and a live person, you will speak to a live person. I know Rosie's here. She's been very instrumental in developing the 988 program. And so you dial 988 and you talk to a live person, and from there you can get resources. We have our behavioral health programs. We have the Indian Health Service behavioral health program. We have Red Rock Behavioral Health in many of our communities that we can do referrals to. We have Talkspace, which is also has openings, I believe, for a little over 600 people. So if you're interested in this, we can sign you up for Talkspace, and there you have confidential place to go with whatever issues you have. And as it was talked about before, a lot of our people face alcoholism, drugs, and unfortunately, through our generational trauma, that is part of the issues that we as tribal members face. Our Department of Health will take calls and do referrals. We also have our Tribal Office of Recovery, the TOR program, which is very instrumental in getting out in the communities. They offer a lot of resources. They have people who will go on site if you are having a true emergency. They will go out and help you, talk with you, help you through whatever issues you have at the moment. They are very instrumental in helping our tribal communities. Other ways that you can do self-care, there are many. You can do work on shawls. You can learn how to do beadwork. You can learn the designs. You can make buckskin dresses. You can go to our local dances and participate in many of the dances there. We have programs that offer drum making classes. They're starting a youth drum group, which and many can attend. You can learn how to make baby moccasins. And our babies are very important to us. When a baby is born, the umbilical cord is saved. And for the girls, they have a lizard made, and that keeps their umbilical cord with them. And for the boys, it's the turtles. So that is something that you can learn how to do. You can make star quilts. Star quilts, you can sew. A person can go out in the fields and pick Indian tea. Indian tea is very good for a lot of our ailments. You can go out and work with horses. I know horses were mentioned before as part of our culture. We can, if you're interested, we can kind of hook you up with people who own horses and do that therapy. You can go fishing, get a fishing pole and go out to the ponds and to the lakes and catch fish. You can have a garden, self-care. You can go out. I just had a little plot in my backyard, dug it up, planted. That was my garden last year. We got tomatoes and cucumbers from there. So those are suggestions for self-care. The tribe, the Department of Health can help with some of these projects. The TOR program provides material, fringe. Health Education just finished another shawl class along with the Department of Social Services. We worked on shawls. TOR has a monthly sober seams class. You can come. They have materials. You can make the belts like I'm wearing. You can make shawls. They have beadwork. Any craft you want, they can get you the materials. So that's part of the self-care. Now I want to talk about who we are as Cheyenne Arapaho people. We have our children that we value. A lot of them have graduated, and we want to encourage them to go forward with their education. When I was growing up here in Watauga, my grandma and grandpa, they raised me, Jane Blackburn and Gregory Blackburn. They encouraged me to go forward with my education, to do good in school, and I listened to them. I went and got my associate in nursing, got my bachelor's in nursing. I made a career out of it, so I was able to care for my family. So that's who we are. We want our children to continue in this day and age with their education. I have a picture of the TOR staff. They're instrumental in getting out in the communities and helping our tribal members. We have our veterans. Here I have my grandfather, Edward White Thunder. He was a World War I veteran. My uncle, Joseph Blackman, he was captured in Bataan. He was a Bataan Death March survivor. He came home. That's my uncle, Joseph Blackman. My grandfather, John Blackman, was also a veteran. So that's who we are as tribal members. in the community. There's veterans that we want to recognize. Who we are now, we have the movement of the MMIW, MMIP. Unfortunately, we have to have organizations to address this issue. We have a lot of our missing and murdered Indigenous people that are not only here, but across the nation. So we are part of an organization. This is my niece, Shannon Talo Lone Bear, who was murdered a few years back. So I became involved with this organization because of her. We are also, our children are involved in the Sand Creek Run. And so these are pictures from past years for the runners, our young children, Carrie, our Eagle staff, and run across from Eads, Colorado, from Sand Creek up to Denver. And so a lot of organization and preparation is done for these children, for the runners, for our youth. And we hope to continue that as well these coming years. Also, who we are, our culture, our Cheyenne and Arapahoes, we still have our chief societies. So as, Uncle Larry and Willie are members of, we just want to recognize our chiefs. They carry us in many ways today still. And so we just wanted to give them recognition. And I know the governor has an upcoming meeting with the traditional chiefs and headsmen and rabbitmen. So I just wanted to give them recognition for that. This picture is of, again, my grandfather, Edward White Thunder, his mother, Yellow Crow Woman, and Old Man White Thunder in the younger days. So from there, I just want to say that we want to embrace the healing process of generational trauma, and we want to lead the future for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren with the generational trauma. We want to do it in a good way. I just want to say to each and every one of you, take care of one another, be there for each other, support one another, and be kind to one another, because that's who we are, we Cheyenne Arapaho people. Aho. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Good presentation right there for all our people, all our Cheyenne Arapaho people, what she has talked about and gave us a good word about all the things that we went through, all our ancestors, what they've been through, and what we're, some of us still, carry some of that, we call it trauma like that. Nowadays, we try to pull everybody together here today to deal with that. Maybe get some little, what we say, relief, something that'll help us cope through the years to come, the days to come, through our young ones, our grandchildren, like that on down. Thank you again, Bobby. Our next presentation, Richard Williams, born in Canton, Oklahoma, to Kenneth Williams and Ida Nina Nibbs Williams. His memories are full of days spent outdoors with his 12 siblings. He grew up on his grandparents, Bill and Amanda Hoof Williams' old homestead about 2.5 miles south, near where the old Mennonite church used to stand. Williams would serve up until 1970, and when he came out, all he wanted to do was put all this behind him. But little did he know it would take 19 years before he was able to fully grasp what it truly meant to serve overseas during the Vietnam War, the United States Marine Corps. Everything comes back full circle, he says. He knows what that today, Williams keeps the word of his grandparents in his heart. Through that times they spoke the words, he had little clue what it all meant. Williams knows the healing power of the ceremonies and the sweats. And when one is ready to receive that power, their lives change. Williams wanted to close in the same manner he has been living his life the past 30 plus years since planting that sobriety tree of hope in his parents' front yard in 1989 with prayers. Thank you, Uncle Richard Williams. Our next presentation coming by Richard Williams. He's also the United States Marine Corps veteran, like was mentioned earlier.
Well, first of all, I want to say good evening to each and every one of you. Just thinking about it, I feel good. And I kind of think back on how it was before. It wasn't always like this. There's so many things that have gone through the years. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. It was in January 1968. I enlisted on my own, thinking that I might get drafted. So I went through boot camp, and then I eventually, they were getting ready to send us overseas. Seemed like they didn't waste any time. Kind of make a long story short, I think I only got about 15 minutes. But back then, I remember when we were leaving California. It was in July. We left from Norton Air Force Base. We landed in Okinawa, Japan. And we stayed there for a few days. We kept our so we came back through. But we left that night. I remember we flew into Danang, South Vietnam. It was about 2:30 in the morning. We had landed there. Before we landed, the pilot came up. He said, when we land, he said that we want you all to move fast. We don't want you to run, you might trip over something. He said, there's going to be guys waiting on you outside. He said, they'll tell you where to go. That flight was the quietest flight that I've ever been on. With all of them guys on there. It's over 100. Everybody was worried about what was going to happen next. But, I kind of felt, well, I'm not the one. When we was going through training, they would talk to us about, they would point, you, why you guys aren't coming back? And that ran through my mind, wondering, I wonder if this is it. But anyway, I just blew it off. Kept going, but then as we landed, sure enough, when that door came open, hot, humid air hit me. I didn't want to be there. And it was dark. It was pitch dark out there. All you could see were flashes going off. Small on fire, explosions. Anyway, we got on them trucks as we was traveling down the road. I seen that plane taking off, going down that runway. That was a lonely feeling, thinking that that's the last ditch. So I'm here. Anyway, they took us to a big old warehouse where it had a bunch of cots and bunks. That's where we stayed that night. Well, after we got there, he said, "Y'all go ahead and find your home. Get comfortable." In the morning, he said, "There'll be somebody come and pick you up from your unit." Anyway, I must have went to sleep somehow that night. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. We heard these loud noises coming in. There were those rockets and a lot of explosions going off all around. You could see flashes going on. You know, that made me think, you know, why did I do this? You know? I wish I could have turned around and went back. But I kind of remembered what it was like to hear them old folks when they were living with grandma and grandpa. They would get on to us and tell us, you know, don't do this, don't do that. Right then and there, I wish I was that little boy again, where I could go back for protection. But grandma said she said, one of these days, you're gonna have to stand tall. We're not always gonna be there to tell you right from wrong. You're gonna have to stand on your own. And that's what I remember when all of that was going on. Anyway, the sun started coming up. As the sun came up, everything stopped. I remember they had this big old pit on the side of the building. That's where we're all jumping. Anyway, well, that was one of the saddest times because I had a lot of regret. So I'm gonna have to put up with this. I'm gonna go through this. All through that year, there was a lot of things we seen that were no good. I seen that side of the war that, you know, a lot of guys don't talk about. Hardly ever talk about this, you know. But I thought about it and I said, well, maybe this might help somebody. Somebody down the line, some of our young people. But anyway, as time went on, I remember it was about 2 or 3 weeks as I was there. You know, I got so worried that I was like, maybe tomorrow's the day that I get to go home, thinking I might get shot or whatever, you know. But you know, I just said to myself, you know, if this is the way it's going to go, then, you know, I'm ready to go. It seemed like when I'd done that, everything new was kind of like, I was able to breathe again. I was able to carry on daily activities. When I done that, you know, it's like I just got it, you know, time started going by. Kind of fast forward all the way up to it was in August. So we got there in July 16th. We came back in August, the last part of the month. But I remember we came in, we was out all night. And one of the guys said, the CO was the C. You know, hey, what did I do now? I got up there, and went in there, and he had this big old yellow envelope. And he tossed it across that desk. And said, it's time for you to go back to the world. You know, I didn't know how to accept that because I thought, I didn't think I was coming back until that October. But, you know, it was kind of like a shock. I went out there to the bunker and I sat there and smoked my cigarette and just kept looking at it. He said, the sooner you get checked out, the sooner you can get out of here. I spent my last night with the guys, and the next day I went to transit and started the process. And went back to work. But, anyway, we got through the inspection and everything. We came on back. We landed in Travis Air Force Base in San Francisco. You know, when we landed, there was a guy there. I met, he was a Navy guy. He said he was from Boston. And, he came over, we started talking. He said, hey, he said, I'm driving back to Kinker on this military hop. He said, you want to go? You know, and, he said, you can avoid all the airports. He said, we route with a cargo. I said, yeah, I'll go. Anyway, it didn't take us very long to leave Travis and we landed in Kinker. And he had to go towards the main office. I told him I'd meet him at the bus station. So I left. I walked out the gate and just walked down the road. You know, back then I started thinking, or after, why didn't I call a cab? Anyway, I was still over there. I was still over there. My body was here, but I was still over there. It was like that through the years. You know, got home and got back to the family. I tried to forget about all that. Yeah, I drowned it out with alcohol. Carried on with everybody. It was still power time. Yeah, it was like that for a few years. And, remember, after I got out the following year, it seems like I noticed there was something different about me. It was a problem that I had. It seems like I didn't care anymore. You know, when I was 17, I had to get my parents to sign for me. I was ready to go. I was eager. Wanted to see what this kid was like. But after all that, will to go on. I didn't have that. And then another long story short, I ended up out on the street. I was around people that I thought were more down to earth. I like that. Where people didn't have to question. They wouldn't expect anything of it. I lived that for me. And you know, I wasn't alone. There were other tribal members out there. Some of you, your families were out there that are hung out. They were, one of the guys was they gave him the Silver Star. And when he got that, he was telling me, he said, listen, he said, they want to award you that. He said, it's not doing me no good. You know, that's the attitude most guys have. So, I guess this is as good as it's going to get. But through the years, you know, myself, I kind of speak for myself. I got tired. I've done that for year, 1989, I slowed down. I had parents that cared for me, parents that were still living. And Mom got me in the VA for treatment. I didn't want to go. I went somehow. I think if I didn't get sick, I probably wouldn't have gone. But that was in 1989. That was in January. And I started to come around, and I started going through ceremonies. They used to have a sweat lodge out there at Concho, run by Marcus Harrison. Anyway, I went out there and I met up with some of the other Vietnam vets there. And, you know, I started feeling that trust again, because I had lost that trust in him. Didn't speak very much. When I got into that lodge, I was able to speak because it was dark in there. Nobody could see it, you know. Anyway, I started to open up. I started to talk more. As time went on, I started to feel more confident. Those spirits in there helped me. They picked me up. You know, I felt like, you know, like a new person again. I was coming out. Started going to some of the NAC, Native American Church. And I didn't do too much of that, but I stuck with the studs and got involved in the other ceremonies. But that's what helped me through the years, you know.
Come and share with us. Appreciate your sobriety. One of the things I always say is that we need more sober Indians. That's a good thing. So, next up on our agenda is Mr. O'Leary. Charles O'Leary is a family medicine physician assistant from Hominy, Oklahoma. Hominy Bucks, huh? It's in Osage County. He has been in practice as a PA in Osage County and Pawnee County since 1975, providing health care to Native peoples in rural communities of Hominy, Cleveland, Pawhuska, Pawnee, and surrounding areas during the time. He is the oldest PA in the state, still providing full-time medical care. He currently works as Lake Area Medical Associates Clinic in Cleveland, Oklahoma, which is affiliated with nearby Cleveland Area Hospital. This clinic is also a VA community care outpatient clinic, and O'Leary is a VA community care provider and sees veterans from the surrounding community and from across the state who sign up with the VA to be seen at this clinic. He also does VA disability benefits qualification exams for veterans who have a veteran service officer and writes nexus letters for veterans to VA disability examiners. Mr. O'Leary is a 35-year U.S. Army veteran. He joined the U.S. Army in 1967, took basic training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, 11-B infantry training at Fort Dix, New Jersey, U.S. Army Jump School at Fort Benning, Georgia, when he became a paratrooper and volunteered for U.S. Army Special Forces training at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he chose Special Forces Medical Specialist 18-D. Graduated from the course in Special Forces training and became a Green Beret. He was assigned to 1st Special Forces Group Airborne in Okinawa, 1969 and 70, where he was promoted to Staff Sergeant E6, after which he transferred to 12th Special Forces Group Airborne in Oklahoma City. He was a member of a Green Beret A team. before getting into medical school at the OU Medical School in Oklahoma City, and was one of the first physician assistants in the state, and original PA license number was 62. After a short break from military service while in school and setting up practice, he joined the Oklahoma Army National Guard, where he was appointed Warrant Officer 1 as an Army PA and assigned to the 45th Infantry Brigade, serving in the 160 Field Artillery, 179 Infantry, 279 Infantry, 180th Infantry, and was a Company C Medical 700 Support Battalion Commander for 4 years, the only PA in the Oklahoma National Guard to hold medical company command. In 1993, all PAs in the Army were converted to officers. He was a CW3 and became a captain and retired after 23 years as a lieutenant colonel. He was deployed numerous times on medical missions to Honduras, Ecuador, Bolivia, served in tours Sinai, and with the U.S. Army peacekeeping forces became between Israel and Arab nations. He was deployed to Afghanistan twice with the 45th Infantry Brigade in 2004 as an Afghan Army trainer, and lived in the Hindu Kush Mountains for a year. In 2006 and 2007, deployed to Camp Phoenix in Kabul, Afghanistan, where he subsequently turned 60 and retired. So with that, I'll give the microphone to you, sir. Round of applause for this young man.
I'm gonna go up to the podium here, otherwise I'll be wandering all over the place. First of all, I want to bring everyone greetings, and for the Cheyenne Arapaho, I live with the Osages, so I bring you greetings from Chief Jeffrey Standing Bear, the principal chief with the Osages, and a Marine veteran, John Henry Mashukashay, who was at Quezon and lives in Huska, and both of us go to the Catholic Church at Barnstall, so that's how we got to know each other. But so we bring you greetings as a veteran. And Richard, I appreciate the story that you told. That's very common. That happens to almost everyone. I myself went through training in preparation for Vietnam and got assigned to Okinawa. And there were 5 of us Special Forces medics that went there. I happened to be first in line and was assigned to a headquarters company. And the other 4 fellows were assigned to line companies where they went on classified missions to North Vietnam, China, Cambodia, and other areas of the Middle East. They were all killed in combat, B-40 rockets that hit the helicopters they were in. So I was fortunate that I was put on TDY missions there to do medical exercises. I brought my wife Nancy at the time. We were just young kids that were newly married. She was over there for a year, and she actually had the hardest job in the Army, being an Army wife, because she had to be there while I was gone all of the time, and stood by me for 35 years while I was in there. So actually, what happened when I turned 70, I was the oldest PA in Afghanistan. MDs, DOs, and PAs can stay until age 79. So my unit forged my name on extension papers and sent to the Pentagon. But most of you ladies are too young to know this, but women of a certain age, when they're upset, they put their hands on their hips and they turn to me, and she told me 35 years was enough. So I went ahead and retired at age 60. We've been married 57 years, and my goal has been never argue with women, and never does any good. And when she says something, I always say yes, dear. And then if I don't like it, I figure out some other way. But that goes there. But being in the military is a family endeavor. Just if you're by yourself, that isn't true, because it affects your parents, it affects your brothers and sisters, it affects the people you went to school with, the people that taught you, the people in your community and at your work. And that's why, and not everybody gets to do it. In the United States now, veterans are around 1% or less of the population. So that's something that does. With Native peoples, the warrior ethos, that's the Native tradition of defending your land, defending your people, and carrying out what needs to be done. That carries over to the military. So one of the things that happened, so I'm one of the few people that was in for a long time. I was in Vietnam during Vietnam times. I was in during Desert Storm. I was in during Iraq and Afghanistan. So the same things happen when these younger veterans come back. They have the same feelings, some of them, as Richard did. That's a very common thing, and it's something that we all need to work together to overcome and to go on with our lives. So I'm also a member of the American Legion. I remember getting back from service during Vietnam and from Okinawa, and my dad, who was a World War II veteran, took me down to the Legion Hall in Newkirk, above Ponca City, and said I'm paying for his first year dues. And then I moved to Hominy and joined the American Legion there. So back then in the 1970s, it was mostly World War II and Korean vets. So I go walking in as a young guy, and they go, hi, and they went, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Charlie Weary. I was in the first Special Forces group, and they go, oh, you're one of those Vietnam veterans. We won our war. What happened to you people? And I said, well, the correct answer is that during World War II, they didn't have McNamara that was running things, and had stuff all screwed up. But those are the things that came out. So you had to kind of push through that and realize that there's a greater good that can be done with veterans working together, helping each other, helping your relatives, helping your tribal people and your associates that you deal with in your community and in your state. And the American Legion is a good example of that. When Richard was talking here, I understood everything that he was saying because I had gone through that and had listened to hundreds and hundreds of soldiers and Marines and sailors and airmen say the same things. Because those are human attributes that happen. And one of the reasons I encourage veterans when they come back to join the American Legion is that people there understand what's going on. Now, we have a couple of knuckleheads in old guys like me, Vietnam people, that wouldn't Afghan and Iraq younger veterans walk in, well, they're the ones saying, who are you? You know, and we had all these other things. So that kind of goes on. But one of the good things about the American Legion is there's a camaraderie. You can identify with everything that went on. In the American Legion, the Army and the Marines pick on Navy and Air Force because those guys are smarter than us. But we have more fun, right, Richard? That goes on with that. But you can relate to the different jobs. And so what I tell people that if you're an 0311 Marine or 11 Bravo Army infantry, it takes 12 support people to keep you alive. And all of the services work together. When I was a trainer with the Afghan Army in the Hindu Kush, the Mujahideen would stop us when we're on convoy. And so they would want bribes and other things like that. So what I would do is get the satellite radio out, and the call sign for the Air Force AC-130 gunship that was circulating above was Tombstone 6. So I would give the radio call sign, Tombstone 6, Tombstone 6, come in, we have a target. Well, the Taliban, the Pashtuns could understand that, and they've all of a sudden, oh, never mind, you shall pass, we must make tea. And that would go on. But it takes everybody working together. As an old Army paratrooper, we need the Air Force to get us to where we're going to go. As a Marine, Richard, you needed the Navy to be the Uber guys that would take you where you're going to go and do that also. But it's everyone working together. And now we have the Space Force that does the drones that you're seeing going on in Ukraine and Russia, and it's a whole new aspect that we have. So the American Legion is a place where veterans can go, where they're accepted, and where they can find out things that they need to do. So one of the big things that the American Legion does is provide veteran service officers. So these are folks that if you were injured and if you were exposed to Agent Orange, if you had some medical issue that occurred initially while you were on active duty or in the reserves or even in the National Guard, you can be eligible for disability rating and get a disability check from the government because of what your injury was. And the way to do that is you have to see a veteran service officer at any of the veterans organizations, American Legion, VFW, DAV, the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs that they have in the state. They will all work with you to help you attain a disability rating. And they have medical professionals like me that take it an extra step. One of the problems that they have is that the VA hires foreign doctors who are very nice and they're well educated and they're very, very polite, but they're from a different culture. And so they don't understand really what's going on. And most veterans don't want to, there's a language difficulty and they would just rather not. So in 2018, the Mission Act was passed by Congress that allows veterans to elect to have medical care in the community. So the clinic where I work applied and was certified as a VA outpatient clinic, and I'm a VA community care provider. So I can see veterans, I send their scripts for their medicines to the Oklahoma City VA or to the Tulsa VA. The VA mails the medicines to the veteran's home. I also help them with the disability exam. So I tell veterans, you can find parking in the parking lot in Cleveland, Oklahoma. The staff is respectful of veterans. They aren't government union where they get paid whether they do anything or not. And I speak English. And then I have a background of being deployed and know what was going on. So the other issue that we find is we need to have more veterans who are in these organizations, the Legion, VFW, and the DAV, volunteer to take veteran service officer training, especially Native American veterans. Of all of the ethnic groups in the United States, the group that has the highest percentage of veterans, the highest percentage of people who step up when it's time to go to war, are Native Americans. And with that group of Native American veterans, the highest percentage rate of a group are Marine veterans that do that. That follows the tradition of Native Americans, of the warrior ethos of what has taken place for generations and generations, and that's what we do. So one of the things that we're trying to work on in the Legion is to get more Native American veterans taking the veteran service officer training, and more Marines. Because the issue that we have, we jokingly call the Marines Uncle Sam's misguided children, USMC, but they call us Ain't Ready Marine Yet, AR, with that. But for a lot of veterans, if you're a Marine, you don't want to talk to some Navy guy or some Air Force person that doesn't know anything about what you went through. But if you have an Eagle Globe and anchor, then you're going to sit down and say, yeah, I was with the 3rd Marines, I was with the different units, I'm having this issue with my leg, or I'm short of breath, whatever the systems are, and it's easier to do that. So that's one of the ways that the American Legion does. Plus, with the American Legion, we have camaraderie. So everybody can kind of joke around with each other, but if people from the outside come and are disrespectful or insulting or something, everybody gets together to run those folks off. So that's what we're going to do. The other thing that the American Legion does is develop community service projects. So today, children in school don't get taught very much history. They don't get taught about patriotism. They don't get, I have a 15-year-old grandson, and I asked him, if you learned anything about Vietnam? What? No. The kids are all looking at the devices today and with the thing, and that's the things. But the American Legion, you can put on programs, you can do flag folding exercises at elementary schools and get children involved in parades and different things like that to build up patriotism and a patriotic community spirit in the town where you live. Plus, you can also help fellow veterans. The Army motto for medical is no one left behind. And so if someone is down, if you're having a bad day, if something happened and there was a death in the family, or you know that your uncle is not doing well, it's up to you to step up and help them out. And the American Legion can help you do that. So those are some of the things. With the American Legion, we have the 4 pillars of the American Legion that this was founded. American Legion was founded in 1919 after World War I. veterans who got back from the war, and nobody knew who they were or what was going on, and they weren't getting pensions, and they formed an organization that would lobby Congress and get laws passed to support veterans, to support the VA, and hold the VA accountable for what they're supposed to do. Right now, we're in pretty good shape because we have a VA director who is his name is Chris Collins. He's from Georgia. He's an ordained Baptist minister, and he was in active duty Air Force, and he's in the Air Force Reserve now. He's an honest man that is trying to do the right thing, which traditionally over the years with the VA bureaucrats, that hasn't always been true. They get extra money and it's spent on getting a new car and getting their office curtains and those kind of things. So that's one of the helpful things that we have. So with the VA, the American Legion has a law group in Washington, D.C. that assists with the VA claims backlog. And that the law that was passed, the Mission Act, has improved access to the VA healthcare. So those are some of the things. The volunteer programs that the American Legion has through the VA is also very good as far as getting transportation. If you live in Watonga or you live in Maumee, it's kind of a far place. It's an hour and a half drive from northern Osage County to the VA in Tulsa, and from here, it's an hour and a half or more to Oklahoma City to the VA clinics there. Clinton is not too far away, so that's a fortunate thing for here. The other thing that the VA, the American Legion looks out is veterans homelessness. So there are a lot of homeless vets out there that need help to get into mental health if they need that. And they have a program called Tiny Homes where they build these small wooden buildings, and they're furnished, and homeless vets can live in those, and then go through the veteran service officer process to determine disability, and then if they can get an income, they can move out on their own. The VA is an advocate, or the American Legion is an advocate for national security to support the troops. The Legion supports the honor flights of that fly Vietnam veterans to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., puts them up at hotels, takes them around, shows them all the things, and brings them back all free. And with a lot of veterans that were over there, that were in combat, this is something, a great release happens after undergoing that. That's a good thing. The Legion advocates to increase the size of the armed forces. Right now, that's the current government. That's as all of the services have met their recruiting goals, and the services have increased. The American Legion overlooks the quality of life on the military bases. If there's mold, if there's some kind of health issue, or something lead in the paint, the different things, the VA, the American Legion is the one that steps up for that. The third pillar for the American Legion is Americanism, where we believe the flag should be protected. And we believe laws should be passed that if you burn the American flag or you do something to desecrate the flag, there should be consequences for that. The American Legion promotes people to register to vote and vote in elections. How we make change come about is we vote people in that are going to do the right thing. And if you keep quiet and sit back, well then people that are dishonest or have another motive will end up getting in to do those things. The American Legion supports the scouting programs. The scouting programs with our young people build up patriotism and service to others. And also the American Legion supports the Boys State program and the Girls State program with the auxiliary. This is a 10-day leadership course that's now being taught for the boys at Rogers State University. That we can get the high school juniors to sign up for it. It's all paid for. It's an in-resident, and it's really a great program. With the girls, it's a similar program that's at UCO in Edmond. And one of the good things about it is if you graduate from Boys State, that goes on, or Girls State, that goes on your resume, and you're looking for a job after college or after high school, employers, when they see that, they put your resume aside, and you made that first cut, and you'll most likely get hired. Also, if you're, for your parents, if you have a child, a boy or a girl, who's interested in serving and going through one of the military academies at West Point for the Army, at Air Force at Colorado Springs, or Annapolis with the Navy and Marine Corps, if you're a Boys State or a Girls State graduate, that's the first cut. Our senators, Langford and Mullen, pull those right out, and it's much easier to get in. Last year, 22 young people from Oklahoma that were at Boys State a year ago, a year previously, got into the military academies. So that's really good. For the parents, that's a free college education. They have an 8-year obligation. They get a degree in engineering or physics, and then when they get out of the service, they can get a good paying job that goes with that. The other thing that through Americanism that the Legion does is form honor guards, and especially with native tribes, that's really an important thing. In Alaska, with the Osages, we've the Legion Post there, Post 198, has joined up with the Marine Corps League detachment that's up there, and at the Osage Congress, at all of the Osage ceremonies, they have a honor guard that presents colors and then retrieves the colors at the end of the day. That's respecting the Native people's warrior ethos and shows respect to Native warriors from over the centuries. In the American Legion, if you don't have with the Cheyenne Arapaho tribe, if you need help setting up a honor guard, the American Legion is here to help you do that, to provide training and direction on what to do. And we can do it not only with the Concho 401 post, but the other posts around this area would also be willing to do that. Or if you got into buying Jackie, the Osages have a van a little bit easier and ride over or something. So for that. But that's something that's important. And the last thing that the American Legion does is honor children and youth. So one of the problems that happens traditionally in Native tribes is the violence and murder of young Indian women. And that's a cultural phenomenon that is present, that is never hardly talked about, that you go to other law enforcement conferences and different social workers conferences talking about this, that never really comes up too much. But with Native tribes, it's a very real situation, and in almost every family, it's either happened to someone in your family or you know of somebody that you knew that you went to high school with, or something that something has happened to. And the American Legion is works with Legionnaires to provide education about this, to provide law enforcement resources, and to help with whatever needs to be done on that. The Legion works with getting children's immunizations. For the most part, that's pretty good as far as school and things like that, but lots of times people may live in rural areas or not able to get in, and the American Legion steps up and helps get those things done. The young people that have intellectual disabilities, that the Legion helps them participate in the Special Olympics, where they have like softball throw and different races and things like that help them. People that have catastrophic illnesses, where you're going to have cancer chemotherapy and you have to get over and being seen, or if you have kidney failure and you're on dialysis 3 times a week, the Legion has programs to provide transportation to assist the veteran or the family member or member of the community that just can't afford that to carry that out. They have programs with to combat drug abuse and alcohol abuse, which are those who are the recovery programs. Everybody, there's no perfect person, and there was only one perfect person in the world, and they hung him on the cross. So but there lots of times people that have issues with drugs or alcohol, and even with the medical marijuana. You know, I'm as a family medicine guy, the law was passed 8 or 9 years ago based on studies that were done back in the 60s when your grandmothers and I were smoking pot. Not that we were, but it was back there. But it was only 3% toxicity with the THC content. So the toxicity to your body was actually very small, although with some of the hippies you never knew, you know, but they were probably doing something else. But nowadays in a marijuana cigarette that you buy at the different head shops that are around, you know, with your fake license that you got online, the THC content is between 50 and 60%. And with the gummies and the edibles, it's between 60 and 90%. So with those, if you take those, first of all, it was marketed as, medical marijuana. If you're anxious, I just smoke a joint and everything is okay. Well, that was true maybe 60 years ago, But now with the new, stronger ones, it makes it worse. People have psychotic breakdown. It builds up in the bloodstream and causes something called intractable emesis, where people can't stop vomiting. I had a patient who was a 42-year-old lady, patient of mine. I've known her for 20 years or more, that died because she couldn't stop vomiting because she was using medical marijuana. You have to go to the hospital with IVs and you have to get shots, and it's just a mess. You take a picture now of a 30-year-old kid that comes into the emergency room. It looks like he's smoking 10 joints a day. It looks like an old fellow my age that's smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day. It's COPD that's right there, and this is a young man or woman that's in their late 20s or 30s. You take a CT of the brain, and there's vacuoles, they're called openings in the brain where the brain tissue has dried off because of these things. So these are some of the things that the American Legion helps bring attention to, so that with your relatives or friends or family members, you can talk to them and say, we shouldn't do this. Let's do something else, and bring about light on that. And then the other thing that the American Legion does is support children welfare. It's called the Veteran and Children's Welfare Fund, and they support children who, similar to the St. Jude Hospital plans or programs where they have children with disabilities and need surgery and different things like that. To do that. So those are the things with the 4 pillars that the American Legion does. So sometimes these are the good things, but what I found is kind of the big thing with the American Legion is the camaraderie. In Hominy, we have a Monday morning breakfast at a local restaurant, and whenever it's closed, we go to Cleveland, and the white ladies there set up 2 tables, and it's called Liar's Table, where all these old guys get in there and they tell tall tales, everyone true. If an Army guy says it, it's true, right? Oh, okay, well maybe not, but those are how you interact with people, and then you can identify if somebody's feeling down that day or they aren't really responding much, and go, so how are you? Well, something happened. Well, let's get you help with this and work through that. Or if you find out, oh, there was a fire, 2 days ago in so-and-so's house, well, let's go see what they need, and help them out. So I would encourage all veterans to join the American Legion. The eligibility is 1 day service. So if you sign up from the recruiter who tells you that you're going to get a new car for going into the Army or the service, and you go down through which is not going to happen, but recruiters have been known to bend the rules of it. And you go through, you have 1 day in, and the next day they find out that you have a medical condition and you have to be put out. You're eligible for the American Legion. In the VFW, you have to be assigned to a combat area, and then with the DAV, they have certain rules where you have to be in for a certain time. But the American Legion, I've been in 50 years. It's a worthwhile organization where you can help other veterans, and you can make life better for them. And for Native people, what we found is that the Legion is an area where people can get together form a honor guard that will help with the tribal ceremonies. And tribal people respect that. And it's always been something that if you had a bad time overseas and you come back and you're in an honor guard, and you're doing something where your grandparents are there, where your parents and your brothers and sisters are watching what's going on, that's something that makes you feel good, and that you're honoring your people's tradition, and that's an important thing. So with that, I'll be getting close to my time. I got a little bit of time. If anybody has questions about the American Legion or what we do here, I want to thank Commander Jackie Turtle here for stepping up with the Concho post. I was the Legion State Commander 4 years ago, and we had a hard time. We would meet people from here, but thank you, Jackie, for stepping up, and the rest of the Legion leadership is behind you and helping you out. So. All right, so the want to hear my Navy joke? So I'll just tell a Navy joke. So what happens whenever the Navy goes to war? First of all, they go to sea and they drink coffee and they watch anatomy films. See, I'm cleaning that up a little bit. And they land the Marines who do the fighting. But we need our things. I was when I got back from Afghanistan, I was they billeted me over there. My last time with Navy NCOs, and so if you're Army trying to figure out a master chief and a senior chief and a chief, and then the Air Force, it's a master sergeant and a senior master sergeant and a chief master sergeant. You know, it's in Army and Marines, it's simple. You know, gunnery sergeant or sergeant first class, master sergeant, and sergeant major. It goes like that. But he got back and he was at Great Lakes Naval Station. He calls me up and he says, Charlie, this is Matt Lutz. And I'm going, hey, Chief Warrant Officer, how you doing? I'm retiring from the Navy. I said, okay, well, that's good. Congratulations, 28 years. Yep. He says, well, I want you to come up here to Great Lakes Naval Station in February and give my retirement speech. I went, we're in Oklahoma, where it's sunshine and warm, and you want us to go to Wisconsin and Illinois, where it's snow and ice in February. He went, yeah. And I went, no. Okay. I looked at Nancy and said, you want to go to Wisconsin and Illinois in the winter here? And she goes, sure. So we go ahead and go up there. Well, the Navy has all kinds of traditions. So one of the traditions, when they have a ceremony, they have a red carpet, and they have a bosun's mate who has a pipe, and it's not called a whistle. It's called a whistle. They get all puffy and start throwing the head off and this kind of stuff. So when you walk up to the stage like this, they blow that pipe. It has that ee sound. So you got to hold your salute, you walk up, you knock over the steps, and get all the way up there before that. And then when he stops, then you can go ahead and bring it down. So I did that. So part of my speech, I told it that joke. So all the Navy enlisted guys were out there in the audience, and they were all laughing. And I kind of looked back, and the Navy officers were behind me. They were kind of frowning at me, but I outranked them some. And I was a visitor, so it does that. So telling engineer stories in Afghanistan, they had in the camps, they were the engineers at board, so they built this fountain, put a little Emerson pumps there that would pump stuff. And so the last day the Navy guys were there, they dumped a whole box of Tide soap. So it bubbled up. So I went all over the place, and you had all these, senior NCOs standing there with their hands under here. What are we going to do? And and some little African guy comes by with a bucket and a mop it up. So those things happen, so. All right. Well, thank you very much. And, we'll be, hanging around here for a little bit if you have other questions. And thank you, sir, for inviting us.
Need to ask, where is the petition? Has everybody signed this petition? Those that choose to sign it?
Right now,
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to mention something real quick here. This petition that we're sending around is for that mental health facility that this project that the veterans and the board and the Shire Apple tribes are working on towards